Lady in the green dress, Mark's talked to. I've seen her 1,000 times. I can never remember. That's right. Is she?
She's an attorney, legal staff. So
Gotcha. Okay. Okay. Yeah. All right. All right. Lost. Okay. Oh. I gotcha. So no. Okay. Excellent. Excellent.
she used to be my neighbor, but she moved though.
Great. What are we doing, dear? All right. Good morning, everyone. Welcome. I'll go ahead and call this June meeting of the Board of Trustees to order. Trustee Martin is joining us virtually today. Good morning, Trustee Martin.
Good morning.
Trustees and IEOs, please remember to speak into the microphone so that everyone can hear you clearly. Trustee Ogletree, if you would, please provide the invocation for this morning.
Let us pray. Lord, we thank you that we can come before you at any time and for any reason. Lord, I thank you that you let me substitute for Pastor Scott Dickinson at Northminster because they've had a fire there. We ask you to bless that church, Lord. We thank you for the many blessings that shared upon our communities. We ask you that you help us to follow the example of that church, that we recognize everyone is made in your image. We are blessed by you, and out of those blessings, we can bless others, including the least of those children of yours who are in our communities. Lord, I thank you for the many blessings that you've given to us individually and the blessings you've given to me. I thank you for the blessing of being able to serve on this board of trustees and the opportunity it gives us and me to meet all of our IEOs and to appreciate the hard work that they do to lead our institutions. I thank you for our faculty and staff and the research and scholarship and the service that they do throughout each of our universities. I thank you for the students. Lord, I ask you to put them on the right path and direct them, to teach them dedication and teach them what they need to learn in the careers that they're pursuing, Lord, and help them to have a successful life, both personally, spiritually, and in every way. Lord, at this time, I ask you just to let your face shine upon us in this day that's overcast and rainy, to give us wisdom for the decisions that we'll make today, to bless everyone here and to keep us safe, Lord, to be gracious to us and to give us peace. In Jesus' name, amen.
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 Thank you, Trustee Ogletree. Dr. Rankins, you have an introduction for us.
Thank you, President Cunningham, and good morning. I would like to introduce our newest member of our IHL executive staff, Dr. Ramesh Madali. He joined us in May as the Director of Strategic Research. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Madali.
Welcome, Dr. Madali. Has everyone reviewed the May 21st minutes? Is there a motion to approve the minutes? Is there a second? Any discussion? All in favor say aye. All opposed, nay. Martin. Well, regardless, the motion passes. Next, I'd like to invite Dr. Boyce to the podium to highlight the good work being done at the University of Mississippi.
Thank you, President Cunningham. I appreciate it. Trustees, I appreciate the opportunity to talk about Ole Miss for just a couple minutes today. And I can promise you, you've seen some of this already. And so I'm going to go through it pretty quickly, if you don't mind. We're going to start with this. We've really worked very, very hard to grow our enrollment, to grow our research, our philanthropy, national recognition in particular. I'm going to cover a few areas here. enrollment, student success. We've had record-breaking fundraising, modernizing our campus systems, our infrastructure, and of course, our national recognition. As we keep moving on to, we are Mississippi's largest university at this point, but the more important part of that is that we've had 3 consecutive years of enrollment growth and 5 straight years of enrollment growth, 3 years of enrollment records. Overall, our increase since fall of 2020 and to 2025, 31%. Here's one of the things that we are very, very proud of, and that's that our minority enrollment growth since 2020 has grown by 31%. And we're proud of that. We're intentional about that. Spring 26, we are up 4.2% over spring 25. And there's a lot of people that don't realize, it's always interesting when people come up to all of us in this room and go, oh, it's summertime. Life must be getting slow and things must be, there's nothing really going on. And I'm always amazed by that. We have 12,700 students taking more than 250 summer school classes this summer. It's a new record for us, but we also have literally thousands of other things going on, thousands of other students, camps and leadership, and you name it, we have it going on. You wouldn't know, let alone that we have just like everybody else out there, at least, I don't know, 25, maybe 30 orientation sessions, each with hundreds of students and hundreds of parents in it. You wouldn't know anything's any different practically if you came up there during the summer or came up during the fall. It almost looks the same. So a lot of people don't realize that. Our fall applicants this year was a new record. We had 46,500 applications for this year's freshman class. The issue is trying to yield them, trying to get them to actually show up and come. It is an enormous challenge, enormous challenge. It's been that way for years. We have over 2,000 military connected students, something we're very, very proud of. I want to talk about student success for just a second next. Our first year retention rate, 86.6%, 9.1% above the national average. We're proud of that. We're proud of our 6-year graduation rate, which is above 70%, and you can see up there. Our 4-year graduation rate is what I want to highlight though. Our 4-year graduation rate since 2019, and it's just been amazing what we've done, has increased by 24%. Why that matters deeply, we all know. Because if you don't have to go that 5th year, if you don't have to go that 6th year, that debt burden and everything else about it matters. It matters deeply. And I was just looking up national averages in 4-year, and it's all over the board. Somebody says it's 45% generally. Somebody says it's 53%. It's all over the board, but we're 10 and a half, 11 points higher than the national average at this point. We haven't always been there. We've been a university like so many other universities in years gone by where the 4-year wasn't all that good. So we told everybody about the 6-year because that made sense and we were a little bit more competitive. It's wonderful that students continue on through year 5 and year 6, but it's better if they get out in year 4 and keep moving, masters, whatever else is next for them, and keep learning. And so we're really pushing that hard and have done an amazing job with it. We have more than 6,800 graduates this past year with Oxford and UMMC. That's a huge number of graduates, something we're very, very proud of. It's all about getting across the stage, 6,800. We've got some unique academic programs, and that's one of the reasons that we are certainly a national university, and our trajectory is just exploding. I'm just going to hit on a couple of them. Lot Leadership Institute is very important to us. Obviously, our honors college is one of the best in the country. Center for Manufacturing Excellence. I don't know if people realize, but the Center for Manufacturing Excellence, the ACT of the students in that program probably averages 29. It's amazing. Some of the sharpest students in America are in that program right there. And I don't know if everybody would recognize that, It's really, and it's a neat program. Our Arabic and Chinese language programs are 2 of the best in the nation. Chinese is number 1 in the nation, and we are about to apply to you for Russia. That's next. This is all about, please understand, and I'm going to get to this in just a second. This is a piece of us being involved with the Department of Defense and the importance of us helping the nation and the military presence that we have in Mississippi and across the country. So that's what this is about as well. as the obvious, which is corporate sales and working abroad and so on and so forth. But these programs are sponsored by the Department of Defense. And we feel like if we get Arabic, Chinese, and Russian, we're going to really be in a wonderful position to help this nation for a long time to come. So anyways, and the last one, I want to tell you about the newest one, because this one's really cool. And we've got a vision for this. It's investment banking leadership. And so I'm sitting at lunch down in Hattiesburg with Jonathan Jones. He's just given us a bunch of money for a new accounting building. And Jonathan and I are sitting there talking, and I'm trying to tell him, oh, Jonathan, I'm so thankful and everything. And he stops me and goes, Chancellor, I really don't want to talk about that. I could care less about that. And I was thinking, well, that's interesting. Well, what he wanted to talk about was, he said, I got a vision. And my vision is I want to set up a program at Ole Miss that Wall Street decides that we're worthy to come down and hire our students. Wall Street rarely comes south of Virginia. So he said, I want to set up a private equity, I don't really know the name of it, banking leadership program, where these students get the highest experience possible. And when they leave with the knowledge base to negotiate not $100 million deals, $500 million abroad. We polish them. We do everything. We bring them in here and we make them something so that they're extraordinary, not only in their knowledge base, but also in their leadership base, in their negotiating base, and how they present themselves. Well, I'm all over stuff like that, because the idea is you bring them in, you do that, and then you turn around, they get out in the field, they're hired by Stevens Brothers, they're hired by Wall Street and people in these firms, and they push money back to Mississippi. That's the vision. They say, hey, we know Mississippi, we know what we're capable of. They push companies and money back. And we've got our first class of 20 entering this fall. We are really, really excited about this. This is going to be a big time program. And that's the kind of programs that, that we think will make a difference for the future of our state. So next thing I want to talk about real quick is our service. Our students serve just like everybody's out there. All my colleagues, students serve. There's just some ideas about how we serve. I love Rebelthon. They dance, they dress up crazy and wild, and they have a ball for 20 some hours, and they raise enormous sums of money for children of Mississippi every year. We're excited about what they do with that big event. Of course, we just have thousands of students work. And then fraternity and sorority life, I don't know if everybody recognizes, but they are deeply, deeply involved in the Oxford area in community service. 90,000 hours, $3 million raised last year. That's amazing. That's real work. And that's really wonderful. Next, research. We have remodified our research over the last 2 years in particular, put a lot of money, a lot of effort into it. And we've got key research areas that we're focused on now. We've kind of refined ourselves. Health, of course, obviously, with Luann and UMMC, very, very important to us. Okay. Defense and security, energy and space. Those are the areas that we've chosen to excel in at Ole Miss. Next, we've got, since 2019, we've developed centers. And this is the work that you've done for us. We don't get this done without you. Can't tell you how thankful we are, because all these centers come right through you and you recognize them. These centers are all about taking care of Mississippi. I'm just going to hit a couple of them just so you know. That Center for Information Advantage and Effectiveness, it may not look like or sound like much, but that center is working very, very hard to talk about misinformation and to talk about how you work with the media and all the things out there on social media, things like that, and recognizing misinformation. And how do we get the integrity of all of this brought back into where we can trust what's put out there these days. The Center of Practical Ethics, Deborah Maurer, it's amazing what she's done. She has led that, and she has won some major and significant awards. That is all about leadership, and she stays busy across the state. When we have an issue down in Jackson, sometimes if our legislators have it, they'll call up and say, hey, could you have us look at this and talk to us about the ethics of this, cannabis, all kinds of research. It's really neat. Center for Insurance Transformation. I wanted to talk about that for 1 second, just to thank my colleagues. I want to thank Tracy and and Gerald and everybody. And, you know, Jackson State, I think right now we have 17 students in the program out of Jackson State. And we've got, in all three of my HBCU colleagues agreed to the program and have worked in the program, and we've had students in it from all the programs. It's really neat what we're doing. And students are getting their degrees from our HBCUs. And with that, they're getting an add-on credential that actually is valued by the field in risk management. It's really working well. It's really wonderful, and I'm appreciative to my colleagues for participating in it. Center for Research on Tactical Performance, real quick, like that's new too as well. We're working with the Department of Navy very closely, and that's all about training and so on. But also we're going to be working with our state policemen, our first responders across the state, and so on and so forth. And what that's all about, and I'll give it to you briefly in one quick example. That's about a firefighter that's halfway up a flight of stairs and has got a child up there and has got to figure out a way to get them out of that house and can't make the last flight of stairs. And they can't make the last flight of stairs because their training, as hard as they trained, may not have been most effective for what they have to do to save people. It may be that Navy SEAL, and maybe people who under the most extreme, extraordinary pressure need that extra, whatever it is, physically, emotionally, and mentally, to make it that last step. That's what this center is all about. This is high level stuff. And I went in and took one of the machine tests, and I caution you, I would be glad to do it for anybody in this room. You may not like the results. I didn't care for the results, I can tell you that. This stuff is so technical that you can go in, you sit there and you grab, and you do everything. It'll tell you whether the oxygen in your left arm is equivalent to the oxygen in your right arm and everything else going on. It also tells you your BMI and everything else that you may not want to know. So anyways, it is special. It is special what we're doing with it. And it's going to be neat, and it's going to go on for a while. And then the last one that's on here, the Center on Collegiate Gambling, that's brand new, just started. We're probably got the only center on collegiate gambling in America. I don't know if you recognize it or realize just how big a problem collegiate gambling is. It's one of those things that stays hidden, right, underneath the surface. And with prop bets now, it's all done on phones. Young people can get into trouble really, really fast. So we decided it was serious enough to open up a center on it. We've done, thanks to my partners out there, my colleagues, we've done surveys across our system. And we're going to have a lot of great information for Mississippi and for you to take a look at in the future to see what we can do to help with collegiate gambling. So as we move on to our future, and we are investing in our future, and this is really what I wanted to show you as much as anything. Go ahead, Jack. Thanks. We're transforming our digital experience. We were years behind and should have done this many years ago, but we didn't. It is what it is. But we implemented Workday in Banner, which many people already have. And this is an investment of 90 million through 2034. We have about 350 employees across campus every day working on this. To implement two systems, both at the same time, everything we had was disrupted. And we've done that with a minimal of complete campus disruption. We just had thousands of students register for the first time through Banner and things of that nature. And Noah and I just sleepless night after sleepless night wondering how all this was going to fall out. You know, all of our payroll, you name it, it was all going on at the same time. It was an enormous technical challenge for the university. But we feel like we're in a good place with it. And certainly it's going to make our university much more efficient in the long run. Go ahead, Jack. Thank you. Obviously, we're building with purpose. We've got $1.4 billion right now in active construction projects going on, about 130 around campus. I'll go through them real quick, like a few. You know, our new early learning and evaluation center. Most of you know that, hang on a second, Jack. Most of you know that this is going to be what we hope is a tremendous addition to the efforts of autism and special needs children throughout North Mississippi in particular as we move forward. But one of the biggest things this is going to do that people don't realize, thanks to a lot of effort on the part of UMMC and our relationship, behavioral testing for parents that have students that are 3 and 4 years old that are just completely out of control. They don't know what to do with them. They don't know how to handle them. I can understand and appreciate that. Right now, we've got, I guess, maybe 400 families on a wait list just to get behavioral testing as an example. So one entire floor and wing here is set up for various types of testing to help parents and figure out what to do with their children before they get into that, really into school and get out of control and all that goes with that. So that's going to be a wonderful center. That's opening up in July of 27. We're getting close. Coolest beam ever is in that building. You know how it used to be that you had all these opening ceremonies and you put the shovel in the ground, everybody does that, oh, that's fine. But then now they do the beam signing for the first beam that goes up, right? Well, this beam is the coolest beam ever because it's got all these little kids' handprints on it. It is really, really a neat beam. So go ahead, Jack. This is a new data center. This is going to be completed in January, and it's the one to the right. Our other data centers to the left. We hold a lot of the state's data and information. So back up in that corner, back up there that you see is the new KA house. That's the largest fraternity house in America. It's absolutely huge. All these young ladies at Ole Miss took and built these enormous sorority houses and redid them, and they're amazing places, have libraries in them. It's incredible. And the guys didn't do anything, kind of sat around, and honestly, their houses didn't look all that nice. And all of a sudden, without any prompting, they've decided they're going to get serious about it as well. So that's the first one. And right now we've got 2 others under construction being remodeled that are going to be absolutely beautiful. So Fraternity Row, when you go down it, is going to look eventually like Sorority Row does in a very short period of time. That's going to make an enormous difference to what our university looks like. I'm not going to talk about cancer. Luann did a tremendous presentation when she was up at this mic. Everybody knows what this is all about and where we're at. The point is it's about performance now. It's about getting the job done. The state of Mississippi said, here, we trust you guys. We know you'll get it done. And they trusted us. They took care of us and did everything we asked them to do. Now it's on us. So I just wanted to show you what you approved and what we worked so hard at. Staff, John, everybody, thank you. You know, this is the dorms. They're going up. This is an actual shot today or so. And this is what's happening right now. And so I never dreamed that they would move as fast as they are. I wasn't sure they could make it by next year. They will make it by next year. So that's the first set that's going up, about 1,280 beds going up. So we're excited about that. Then this is the next one we're bringing to you. We're working on it right now with Brad and John, and it's the West Row dorm site, and that's going to have about another 890 beds in it, and that'll take care of that project, that whole P3 project, dormitory project that you guys, without your support, none of that gets done. But it is going to be absolutely beautiful. So, thanks. There's Jones Hall, the accounting building. It's going to be overlooking the Grove. It's going to be a special place. And that investment banking center that I was telling you about too is going to have a very prominent place in that building so that when you walk in there, everything that just your entire touch will be high quality. Triplet Alumni Center, we're tearing that down in about a year and rebuilding it, the alumni. And it'll go next, obviously, it's going to sit next to the accounting building. So it'll modernize the area around the Grove. And we're excited about that because we're trying to get those 2 buildings to get completed at exactly the same time. So we can just keep the Grove tore up for about 2 falls rather than 5. It's not going to be easy to do, by the way, but we're going to do it. There's a parking structure that's going up, new parking structure. As I've told you before, because they're all brick and everything, it's about 56 million or so. Prettiest mechanical plant in America. We invested in women's athletics heavily, new softball facility, new soccer fields, and also the building you see, go back, Jack. The building you see right there is our Gillum Center. We're investing in new locker rooms, new weight facilities, volleyball, and so on and so forth. It's very, very important, and you'll see why in just a minute. Women's athletics at Ole Miss is incredibly important, like it is to all of our colleagues. Some other key projects, just some things we're doing. Theater arts expansion and music expansion is on its way as well. we bought, we bought the across the road there, the movie theater and everything. We ended up taking and purchasing all that back. And so that's where everything's gonna go. And we're about to change things along that process. South Oxford Center with expansion, nursing is exploding up there. The safe streets, very important. I was just in Washington visiting with the Department of Transportation. I need 3 bridges, walk bridges over certain areas to protect my students. And it's been far too long since we've had them and we need them. So been up there to work with them. But of course, you know about, we had one of the greatest capital campaigns and certainly in our history and in history. So it was exciting. What the thing about a capital campaign that I want to mention to you, it doesn't really make any difference what the number you raise if it doesn't do anything. If it's not real impactful, it doesn't make any difference. I wanted to know what the impact of what we did was, and I didn't want to just know it in terms of buildings. Okay, that's easy, right? What's important is that we have 367 new out of this program scholarships endowed for students. That's a lot, 367 out of one campaign. Then we also, very important, have 138 new student-focused program endowments, different programs for students. And then we have 36 faculty support endowments that are permanent. These are the things that come out of a campaign like that not many people talk about, but that's the important pieces because it all serves students. Lastly, I thought it would slow down. I almost was guaranteed if I'd been a betting man, which I'm not, I would have lost everything because I thought, wow, after we did all that, people have given and given and given. Not true at all. Last year, we had another record-breaking year for annual giving, but this year we have exploded past it. And we're incredibly excited about where it's at. And I want to thank UMMC because they are raising money like crazy for the cancer piece. Our athletic department is raising money. Our athletic department normally raises around 50 to 53 million on an average year. They're already over 100 million this year. So people are dedicated and the success is driving the success. That's the way it works. Athletics, I'll be quick. We're exceeding the national averages for our athletes, graduation success rates and so on and so forth. We're one of the top schools. We can compete with anybody with our success rate. But I want to tell you, so is Mark. Mississippi State is as well. We do it right in Mississippi. We really, really do. And I'm proud of both of us because we're right up there. And we have 5 or 6, 7 programs sometimes that have 100%. All of our students graduate. All of our students meet the APR standard. Both of us get that thing done. We compete really, really strongly in the SEC with taking care of students to the finish line. That's something I'm real proud of. And 13 of 18 total sports advanced to the postseason this year. This past year, we're excited about that success because when Learfield puts out their bottom line, here's the best overall athletic programs in the country. They judge about 265 schools. Well, Mark and I get judged with 18 sports because that's all we have. But you could get 19 if you had 19. So we're fighting it uphill right from the beginning because everybody else gets 19 sports and points. We get 18. So we can't get to the top of the ladder. But to get to 10%, the top 10%, the top 13, 14% every year of athletic programs overall in the nation, which is where we land, is something to be proud of. It really is. And we're excited about that. Finally, I just want to close by just telling you that that's just a brief glimpse of what's going on up there. But I don't know, we don't get a chance to thank you very often. We don't get a chance to come to the mic and do things like this. So I appreciate it, Dee, but I want to say this to you. None of this happens without his support and your support. It just doesn't. So I do want you to understand that the reason, and I tell my people this all the time, I get to sit up here and have all these brag points. They get all these brag points. I get to make this presentation 100 times this upcoming year, and none of it's based on my performance. At the end of the day, it's based on the performance of those students, those faculty members, and everybody else, staff members, everybody who's making this university happen is why we all get to stand up here and take credit for it. But it's your performance and you making sure that we've got what we need to get it done that's getting it done. So thanks, appreciate it. Dr.
All right. And thank you, Dr. Boyce, for sharing the fantastic work and the progress being made at Ole Miss. We'll keep moving on here. Dr. Pierce, will you introduce our next presenters, please?
Good morning. We have Dr. Brian Prescott and Dr. Sarah Pingle from the National Center for Higher Education Management Systems. Last month, they gave you a preview of their recommendation for a performance funding framework. At the end of this month, they will be giving you a final report with written documentation, a spreadsheet for calculating this moving forward. And today they want to give you kind of some advice moving forward, some comparison. They'll give you some metrics in the final report for peer institutions and how to make some of these performance improvements that we're looking for. Dr. Pingle?
Pierce and to the trustees for having us again. I've been really pleased over the course of this project. You know, NCHEMS and Brian and I have the privilege of working with groups like this across the nation. This is one of the only projects where I think we've been at every single meeting of the Board of Trustees or Board of Governors, whatever it may be in that particular context, from the start to the end of the project. So I just really want to start with a note of gratitude for this Board of Trustees and for the institutional leaders that have really collaborated with us and worked with us throughout this project. The engagement has been deep and sustained across the course of this project, and I'm really proud of the recommended performance funding framework that Brian, Dr. Prescott, and I have the privilege of presenting to you today. And we also thank you for welcoming us into all of this rain as well, which was a very welcome surprise this morning. Many of you know that we come from Colorado, which has been, you know, heavily inflicted with drought in recent years. We haven't gotten the snowpack we need. So y'all are just showing off this morning with all this rain that you have for us. And I got a little drenched this morning as well. So we'll make it work. So as I said, we're at the conclusion of the project. NCHEMS's contract with the trustees ends at the end of this month. As Dr. Pierce said, we're putting final touches on written reports that will really serve to memorialize and to have another way for you all to engage with the findings of the work. But the presentations that we've offered to this board, to the institutional leaders and everything along the course of this work are all contained within that report. So there will be no surprises when the report comes out at the end of this month. It's really just another way to look at the findings and look at the recommendation that we've pulled together. That is really the purpose of today's presentation, is just to give the 2-minute version of the framework recommendation that we have. We have some considerations that we think the trustees in particular should hold close as they think about implementing this framework. And then Brian will run through some additional recommendations that we have for consideration as well. One of the things that we got to do over the course of this project, as I said previously, was really engage deeply on funding issues across the system. And that brought to light for us some other things that might have been out of scope for this particular project, but are things that we think the trustees and other state stakeholders should be paying attention to. So that'll be in those additional recommendations, as well as recommendations for implementation moving forward. So just by way of reminder, I just wanted to say, you know, we've done a lot of deep stakeholder engagement throughout this project. All of the institutions welcomed us in February to learn more from their students, their faculty, their staff, see their facilities. All of that engagement has been part of the recommended framework that we've pulled together today. Certainly it's a product of our expertise, Dr. Prescott and I and the rest of the team at NCHEMS, but it's also a product of what we heard that people want for IHL, for the institutions, for students, and for Mississippians. And so these are some of the folks that we worked with. We tried to bring together as much consensus as we could around where this model needed to go, the direction that it ought to take. And we brought that together into this statement, which you've seen in every one of these Board of Trustees meetings throughout the spring, right? This was really our guiding light, our North Star for if, you know, whatever framework we were designing needed to kind of fit the bill in terms of being data-driven, adequately supporting the institutions and containing a performance component. And so what we pulled together to try to fulfill the aspirations that were contained in the goal statement is the performance funding framework. And it contains two main components: a data-driven calculation of minimum foundational cost needs, and a second component that aligns performance funding behind statewide goals. Those goals include things like degree completion, student progression, workforce outcomes, things that the state of Mississippi needs out of its four-year public institutions. We also know that there's pretty low consensus around what should constitute foundational funding, what kinds of expenses should be covered. And so we designed a flexible framework that would allow multiple pathways for the trustees to engage in decision-making around what that should look like. And so starting at this foundational funding base, floor, lean, and comprehensive funding levels are calculated within the report, with the floor really representing just facilities, administrative costs, those minimum costs of keeping an institution open. The lean level including more costs related to offering academic programs and serving students well. And then the comprehensive level having the state play a larger role in supporting curriculum development and other things of that nature. Building on that foundational base, we've also designed a performance funding component. The trustees would then use these steps through this framework to allocate funding. So we would calculate foundational funding levels. We would determine where the gaps exist or don't exist. And then additional funding would be allocated to fill those gaps where they exist, to also to incentivize performance. And then the sum of those components would comprise the institution's total allocation. So that's at a high level, the steps that we've recommended for the framework. There's also board policy, in addition to the recommendation and the framework that we've created, that directs the actions that this body would need to take when it comes to funding. And so this is taken directly out of the board manual around what it is that the board needs to do. And so what is in front of this board at this point is really an inflection point between the framework that we've put together, the policy that you've been called to enact through your role as trustees, and how you're going to operationalize that. Right? How are you going to use this framework to inform your actions in terms of budgetary requests from the legislature, in terms of allocation for each of the institutions? And so that's really, for the balance of the presentation, what Dr. Prescott and I want to focus on, is discussion and guidance around those items. So you have on the left side of this slide some model characteristics for what this board has adopted in policy for what they want to do with funding. They want it to promote student affordability and accessibility, high quality programs. You want it to be stable, predictable, understandable, adequate, and accountable. Those are all very laudable goals, and they exist on a practical reality that makes attaining some of those things incredibly difficult. And that's not just in Mississippi, that's in any state, right? What we found through the study is that many of the institutions, the entire system, is underfunded relative to meeting some of its needs as we calculated them in the report. We know that state funding availability is limited, resources are limited. They will continue to be limited in the future. All signs point to that. We know that at the same time, given these limited resources and underfunding, that stakeholders really want to drive performance with the dollars that do exist. And we also know that Mississippians in all parts of the state rely on all of these institutions. Whether they live in Cleveland or Oxford, they rely on their local institution in order to meet their post-secondary needs, workforce training needs, and enter and engage meaningfully into employment opportunities. These practical realities are ones that the trustees will really have to grapple with as you implement this framework, ideally. And so there's some decisions that you'll need to make in order to contend with both of those things. I have three of them here that I could imagine. I'm sure there are many more, hundreds probably, that we could imagine within the framework, where you could change a weight or tweak a measure or fix a metric here, and it would influence the output. I'm trying to focus here in this presentation on three major decisions that you could make that would majorly impact the output from the model. Knowing that Dr. Pierce, Dr. Prescott, and I are here to support in other types of decision-making and modeling that the trustees may need to inform their decision-making. So the three that I'll focus on today are really decisions around prioritization of the state funding needs, the level of foundational funding to seek, and the share of dollars that would go towards meeting the foundational funding gaps and performance. So the first of these is fairly basic. So we've recommended in this report, and I'm not sure if we've said this as cleanly as I'm about to say it today, that there's the floor, lean, and comprehensive levels are a way to prioritize what types of costs the state should cover for the institutions. And we propose through the framework that a higher priority be placed on things at the floor level, meeting administrative expenses and meeting facility maintenance costs. We do that because the state really holds the title to these facilities, right? And they've made the decision to establish these institutions in these various locations across the state. And so the state plays a role in keeping that resource open for Mississippians. And then at the lien level, we add in the cost of providing programs, student support costs, and then curriculum maintenance moving forward into the comprehensive level. This is our recommended prioritization of those expenses. That doesn't mean that it needs to be the prioritization of expenses that the trustees adopt, for example. So within the model that we've provided to Dr. Pierce, this body could decide that actually facilities maintenance is not the highest priority for us, and we would like to maintain more of a state share towards student support costs, and that could move up into the floor level, for example, and other things could move out or move down. This is a choice that this body could make, and it's something that the model and the Excel file that we've provided to Dr. Pierce would allow that flexibility to make those different types of prioritization decisions. The second decision that this body could take up is around the level of foundational funding to seek. So floor, lien, comprehensive. Within the context of our report, we've described how to calculate each of them. And we hope that that information can be used to inform a better and more thorough understanding of the resourcing needs of all of the 8 institutions. We also found, as I said earlier, that there are gaps to reaching these foundational floor levels across the institution. So this chart shows, where there's a check mark, there is a gap in terms of what the funding that institution has historically received and what we would calculate that level of funding need for that institution. We know that at the lien level, that's the level of funding that most closely aligns with the goal statement that we prepared and with peer state practices. Most states that, all states that have public systems of higher education have an interest in not just opening the doors of a facility, but actually offering courses through it as well and enrolling students. So we know that most closely aligns with where the goal statement would be and where most states want to be. That being said, the gaps to meeting floor level for all institutions are so inconsistent that our recommendation really focuses on getting the institutions all up to a floor level of funding with specific mechanisms in place to close those gaps. This board could make a different decision around what level of funding to seek. But just wanted to point that out, that our recommendation is a little bit different from what would align most perfectly with the goal statement, just given the scope of some of the gaps that are there. And then finally, the share of dollars going towards foundational funding gaps and performance. We really conceptualize within this model that foundational funding and performance funding work hand in hand. You can't build meaningful, durable performance on what's the word I'm looking for? On a weak foundation, right? So the example that's coming to my head right now is I'm a cyclist, and if I eat spaghetti the night before, I'm going to get 50 miles the day after, right? But if I don't eat that spaghetti the night before, 30, 40, we'll see where we get, right? And so we really, really want to drive home this point that preparation and foundational funding can really play a key role in supporting the performance growth and improvement across all of the institutions. And doing that on an inadequate base will make that task much more difficult for each of the institutions. And so we shared this chart in a previous meeting where we really looked at, there are a lot of states that have performance funding and that allocate a lot of their funding to performance, but many of those states still protect base within a performance funding framework. Most states have hybrid formulas. They don't do all one thing, for example. And most states, especially in the early years of setting up performance funding, do so in a very intentional and careful way to balance volatility, which is kind of what performance funding is predicated on, right? That volatility will produce behavior change, with predictability. And those two things are two concepts that you trustees are going to have to hold carefully together, right? So for example, North Dakota, 100% of their funding goes towards performance, but they still have measures in place to stop loss, right? They're still protecting base funding for each of those institutions. That means that the volatility that they're producing through their formula is much less than states perhaps that have less of a share going towards performance within their formula, but maybe they do or don't protect the base in that process. So I just want to nuance a little bit that, you know, having a large or a small share of the total funding going towards performance, there's the devil's in the details with that, right? Especially when you're thinking about comparing to how other states do it as well. I want to share a short story, and I'm not an expert on South Carolina by any stretch, but just to illustrate this point, and I'm sure, you know, Brian has other examples as well from other states that we could share as they're helpful. But in 1996 in South Carolina, legislation passed that forced their Commission on Higher Education to allocate 100% of state funding based on performance. And in response, their commission developed 37 different performance indicators. Quick reminder, we're working with about a dozen in this model, so it's much more simple. By 1999, over a third of the state's funding was being allocated based on performance. There was a hold harmless provision in place through 2000. And after 7 years, everybody said we can't do it anymore. The volatility is too great, the metrics are too complicated, and South Carolina is still on a path of continual adoption and refinement of performance funding policy. And that adoption and refinement cycle is one that is approached from this perspective of we're not doing right or it's not enough. I'll just be clear, like, I don't want that for Mississippi. What I want is a constructive performance funding framework in place for Mississippi where adoption and refinement is accepted as part of the process, where you're continually going through and saying, is this producing what we want it to produce? And if it's not, make changes rather than throwing it away and restarting, throwing it away and restarting over and over as other states have done. And so what I want to introduce for this group is that it's really actually quite normal to adopt and revisit funding policy, and it's actually desirable to adopt and revisit funding policy, right? So I would suggest that at the start of our project together, we were really in this kind of agenda setting phase where folks said that, gosh, I'm not quite sure if the allocation model is doing what we need it to do. We need more performance infused into the model. Brian and I and the rest of the team went through a process of consulting with stakeholders and designing a model, drafting a model, aligning that model to stakeholder needs and to our expert opinion as well. We're in this stage right now where we're finalizing model selection and moving towards implementation. And I just want to say right now, that doesn't mean you're going to be done. Right? That doesn't mean you're going to be done. It's actually the beginning of the work, right? Where it would be implemented and then it would need to be reviewed continually. And Brian will talk in more detail about how we recommend that take place. And then the cycle will start over again, right? But the fact that this cycle could start on a performance funding framework that we've designed today, rather than fits and starts and throwing models away and starting all the way over again, is already a step ahead for Mississippi, right? I also wanted to provide just a quick metrics comparison to models in place in other states. So it's not only the share of funding that this board will need to grapple with, it's also what kinds of metrics are in it. And I think as we saw from the very brief vignette about South Carolina, right, you can go for a whole lot of metrics and introduce a lot of complexity, and that may or may not actually be a desirable artifact of the model, right? So what we've done for this model is certainly we've designed something that's unique to Mississippi, but we've also tried to build off of metrics that are in place in other states with really durable models that work well, right? So there are pieces of this that are unique to Mississippi, but there are pieces of this for sure that borrow from Tennessee and from other states with really strong performance funding models that are in place. So with that, I will pass to Dr. Prescott for additional recommendations that we have for you to consider.
Oh, thank you. I want to add my thanks to the trustees and to the IEOs and to everyone in the room for tolerating so much of our presentations over time. And I also want to borrow from Dr. Boyce's comments at the end about crediting all of the people who work at UM for the success of UM, because I've done my part of this, but really this has been Sarah's project to lead, and I want to thank her for all of her energy and effort in putting this forward. As the trustees think about adopting the framework that we've talked about, there are these additional recommendations that we mentioned that are aimed at ensuring that you're not in that cycle that South Carolina is, that that we're delivering to you not just a model, but a way of thinking about how to make it durable over the course of time, so that there's a constant sort of renewal of the model, that it continually works to meet the changing needs of the state and of the institutions and so on. And so the first of these recommendations is actually a much bigger picture, which is the trustees have a role to play in setting the statewide post-secondary education attainment that right now is ascend to 55. And so we want to encourage the trustees and the staff and through the staff in engaging that dialogue with the various other parts of the state and with other parties in the state to make meaning of what ascend to 55 means for IHL, so that the funding model is connected to the larger statewide priorities that exist in the state. And so it's not just the trustees' job to ensure that the state meets its goal, but that the goals are clearly set with the needs of the state in mind. So that's the first part. And then the second part is that there's a process within the trustees to engage and be in touch with how the funding model evolution and development takes place. I assume that is through the finance committee and the finance committee chair in particular going forward. But I think that it's really critical that there's a process in place by which the trustees are engaged in this conversation going forward. And then we think that it's really vital that there's a link between a statewide goal like Ascend to 55 and the goal statement that motivates the way that the funding model is to be designed and implemented and redesigned and re-implemented as time goes by. So that goal statement that we worked really hard on would be a useful thing for the trustees to say, this is how we believe the model should currently work. Second recommendation is really about more of the nuts and bolts of how to do that. And so when we think about how to ensure that there is a feedback loop that happens, kind of as Sarah described, in order to ensure that the questions of volatility are addressed, we think there's a need to really have a clear understanding within the trustees on a regular basis, an annual basis, of how do we rebalance that as changes occur in the state budget from year to year, as priorities change, that are expressed by policymakers, but also because you all are you're not apolitical certainly, but you have terms that are staggered and are not aligned with the changing political preferences of the state, that that this is all mediated through the work that you do. And so how do we ensure that there's stable minimum support for the 8 institutions at the same time that there's an encouragement for performance improvement throughout? Anytime we go into a state to talk about funding model reform, especially a comprehensive reform that is going to reallocate essentially the entirety of the unrestricted state appropriation, we encounter limitations about the quality and coverage and nature of the data that we would prefer to use in the development of the model, because there's data that exists but hasn't been used or validated before for the purposes that we have in mind. And so what I want to argue is that sometimes these projects run into a little bit of a mud patch. I mean, we're living in one right now today. And so that's a good analogy, because the concerns are about how perfect the data are for the use that we have intended. And I want to discourage that kind of thinking. We can, it'll be the trustees' job to navigate the politics around this, but one of the reasons that we elevate the foundational funding component is because the performance stuff, it takes a little time for institutions to reorient themselves and for the data quality to catch up to how it's being used. And so we've encountered some of that. I want to encourage the trustees and even the IEOs and their staffs to not let the perfect be the enemy of the good as you work through the adoption and transition period. And so I think that there needs to be ongoing facilitation and training. The trustees will own this model, and Dr. Pierce and his team and Casey and her team will have to continually be working to clean up imperfections in the data that will get better as they are used. And to help with that, I think that there needs to be a pair of processes in place to make sure that happens. And the first of these is a technical review. And I think that this needs to be done on an annual basis We believe that in order for this model to be durable, there has to be a robust and established structure to ensure that it happens. And so in my vision, the trustees would create either the trustees or Dr. Rankins would create a team that would be either chaired by somebody like Dr. Pierce or by one of the a rotating member of the institutional team that would support it, to look at the data elements that are being used to implement the model and to make tweaks. So there are a whole bunch of decisions that are baked into this model. Some of them are very technical, like, are we sure that we've got the weighting right that differentiates the cost of delivering intro to psychology and advanced manufacturing engineering at the graduate level? Those kinds of technical things are way below where the trustees need, but there needs to be a consideration of how that works, and that has to happen on a regular basis, not just as the model's being implemented, but annually thereafter. A second process that needs to be in place, in my view, is that there needs to be a regular policy review of the model. So those are for elements in the model that are much more political. They speak to the goals of the state. They speak to the political political priorities of the moment in ways that, whether we're weighting this or that, don't. They're questions like how much of the model should go to performance versus foundational support. How much of the as you work towards lean, if you'll recall from the prior presentation, we did some things with how we calculated the costs of lean that differentiated between what the research universities should have to contribute out of their own tuition revenue primarily versus what the state should. That was different than for the regional comprehensives. That's an important policy level decision that we made a recommendation. There's differences of opinion about where it should land. And that conversation is yours to own after we leave. I would just argue that shouldn't be an annual conversation, because if you do that annually, you're reinventing the wheel all the time. At least you're doing it under a framework, but you're not giving the institutions time to respond to what the incentives are there. So this is more on a 5-year basis that this happens. And when you bring that group together, it includes a broader group of stakeholders than just and I say this affectionately, the data nerds in the room like me that are going to work on the technical aspects, but you'll need some institutional leaders. You might even need some people outside of higher education, like a key legislator or two, to contribute to that kind of conversation. You might need outside facilitation for it, but it should be a moment where you really are thinking about, this framework works for us, but we've got some key policy elements within it that we need to have a meaningful dialogue about. If you don't do these two things, I fear that what will happen is 2 or 3 years from now, the state will experience some kind of state budget disaster, or there's political desire to reallocate resources that negatively impact higher education, and everybody just throws the baby out with the bathwater because it's easier to continue doing the same old base plus funding model that is not going to work for Mississippi or most any other state in the future. The fourth one is, really trying to think beyond the unrestricted allocation. And we haven't talked about this. This is really a little bit beyond the scope of what we were asked to do. But we think it's important that the trustees bear in mind that there are other funding streams that come from the state that meet institutional needs and state priorities that are important to just bear in mind as you think about. You shouldn't be monkeying with the model so much, but how do you think about how those additional resources fit within the framework that we've outlined here, or fit alongside the framework that we've outlined here. And so just as a reminder, this is a picture of all of the various different sources of revenue from the state that were in the AOB in successive years. That big blue bucket on the bottom is the unrestricted amount of money that the state puts into an appropriation to IHL for allocation to the institutions. The rest of this is all funding that comes through the state budget that goes to individual institutions in some form or fashion, and also to UMMC for particular purposes. And if you look at adjusted for inflation, the amount that came through the unrestricted amount or the unrestricted stream was pretty constant through fiscal 22 from fiscal 15, with one blurb that where, you know, with one blurb. Anyway, I'm not coming to a blip. Thank you. In 21, that's probably pandemic related. But after that, beginning in fiscal 23, the unrestricted portion, not dollar amount, dropped and more money went into other categories. I don't have a judgment call about whether that's right or not. I just think it's useful for the trustees to think about what are those additional dollars that come from the state for, and how do they work alongside the unrestricted amount. And so what we think that the way to think about that for me is that, first off, you just kind of have a sense of what the mission aligned services that the state needs to seek and support. What are the differences that each institution really needs to focus on. We heard a lot from Dr. Boyce this morning about a whole set of initiatives, and all of those are lovely, and you should honor those things, as I think you do. I'd say those are some valuable things that the University of Mississippi should do. Delta's got the same or a similar list. Alcorn's got a similar list. Make sure that you know what those things are that really distinguish the mission of the institutions one from the next. And then all of the rest of that stuff, for me, falls into one of two sort of use cases. One is we want to build capacity. So Dr. Boyce wants to build I forgot what it's called, an investment banking institute, and largely with private dollars. But it's going to get private dollars may support it, but it's going to have benefits for the state. The state needs to somehow think about how it could seed and push that activity forward, and then the credit hours and all of that are developed by that start working their way into the unrestricted dollars over some time. So you want to seed a program at the University of Mississippi or at the Valley or wherever. The trustees can hear those appeals from the presidents and say, these are things that we really think that Delta should be doing, that Mississippi State should be doing, or whatever. We need to work with the legislature to ensure that there's money to do that. And then as that activity starts to build and improve, it'll work itself into over 5 or 6 years into the unrestricted dollar amount. That's a temporary capacity building activity. The second one is where the institution the state is effectively buying services from an institution. Perfect example of this is the land grant missions of Alcorn and Mississippi State. Those two institutions are always going to be the preferred vendor for a whole bunch of agriculture, for 4-H, for master gardener programs, for a bunch of other things that might benefit from their expansive and presence in every county of the state to do things that the state needs done. And UMMC is an example of this, and largely because we don't have good numbers on what medical education actually costs. But this is a purchase of services, and the example is that each institution is effectively the preferred vendor for those things. Not to make a weird analogy, but it's like this, at least it used to be the case in my home state, and it may still be, that the state buys license plates from the prisons, and that they pay the prisons for that. They get a product in return, and that's how that works. And so, not to try to analogize the higher education institutions as prisons, but I think you get the point here. And so a lot of those dollars that go through the earmarks operate in that, or could be thought of to operate in that manner. And that's really all that we have for you all today. And I think we're open for any questions that the trustees might have. But if should you not have any, I just want to take a moment one more time to say thank you so much for all your attention. from all of you in the room to the work that we've done, and because it's really pressing and high priority. And we wish you luck, and we will be happy. We will be watching with interest, and we're available if there are questions.
Thank you so much, Dr. Prescott and Dr. Pingle. We're looking forward to receiving that final report from you guys, and thanks for all the hard work you've done. Any questions from the trustees or the commissioner, anybody? If not, ladies and gentlemen, we'll take a 5-minute break, I think, to allow them to be able to take off and stretch their legs, and then we'll finish up with the rest of the meeting here.
We. I know. Huh?
Is that why you sent it to me?
Oh, no.
It's one.
What did I send it to you? Oh, I did that by accident. I was, I was, uh, I was happy with it's going that bit lower. So I meant to send it to Julie. I'm sorry.
Okay, gotcha. Everybody see you. We're good to go. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, hope you enjoyed that recess. I think it's the first one I can remember us having. We may need to implement that a little more frequently. So, right. But I will turn it over to the commissioner for a brief introduction.
Trustees, at this time, I want to recognize Senator Harb Bryan. He's chair of the Senate Public Health Committee. He stepped in the meeting. Raise your hand, Senator Bryan. Don't hide back there. We appreciate you, Senator, for your great work, and glad you could join us this morning.
Thank you, Commissioner. Next are the consent agendas. Are there any items that need to be moved to a regular agenda for consideration? If not, is there a motion to approve the consent agendas? Is there a second? Any discussion? All in favor say aye. All opposed, nay. Bridges, Trustee Martin with us? Trustee Martin?
Hi.
Thank you, sir. The motion passes. Trustees, we will now move to the regular agendas. Trustee Hubbard, would you please present the academic affairs regular agenda for us?
Yes, thank you. Academic Affairs has 3 items on the regular agenda. Dr. Casey Presswood will present this information for the board's consideration.
Thank you, Trustee Hubbard. The first item on the agenda is a request from Mississippi State University to establish the Institute for Nursing Leadership at MSU to be housed in the School of Nursing at the Meridian campus. The anticipated cost for this extensive scope and outreach institute is approximately $250,000 for the next 5 years, to be funded by private philanthropic sources and/or federal and state grants. The Institute for Nursing Leadership at MSU will be dedicated to leveraging the expertise of seasoned nursing leaders to improve healthcare outcomes in Mississippi communities. By capitalizing on their experiential and professional knowledge, this initiative aims to create meaningful, sustainable healthcare solutions that address urgent needs, enhance workforce retention, and elevate nursing mentorship, ultimately bettering health outcomes statewide. No institute in Mississippi is structured specifically to leverage senior nurse fellows as a sustained leadership, mentorship, and workforce strategy. Board staff recommends approval of this item.
You've heard the recommendation. I make a motion to approve this item.
There's been a motion to approve item number 1. Is there a second? Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Yes, I have.
Okay.
Just wanted to say that I support this. Appreciate Mississippi State's program that has been started, that, as the board may recall, was a narrow program that met the needs of the community hospitals and the community. And I remember, as a part of that, leadership was mentioned because the students going there already had undergraduate degrees. So no, we have all toured the facility, and I was impressed with it. I think the rest of our group was. And so I'm in support of this, but I wanted to do it in the context of what the mission has been for that program.
Thank you, sir. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Trustee Martin,
Aye.
the motion passes. Dr. Presswood, if you would, please proceed.
The second item on the agenda is a request from Delta State University to create the College of Aviation to be housed in the Division of Academic Affairs. There is a companion request to rename and reorganize the College of Business and Aviation to the College of Business on the Academic Affairs consent agenda. This structural change is primarily driven by the substantial growth of the university's aviation programs, which has experienced approximately 30% growth over the past 3 years, largely due to the Bachelor of Commercial Aviation and Flight Operations major. The expansion has generated a 35% spike in monthly flight hours and is backed by a federal earmark supporting its agricultural aviation workforce development program. By establishing a distinct college, the university intends to provide dedicated oversight capable of addressing rigorous federal compliance, safety, and flight fleet planning, while positioning itself to meet massive projected shortages in the North American aviation sector. The current dean of the College of Business and Aviation will shift from his dual role to serve exclusively as the dean of the College of Aviation, while a search will be conducted to hire a new dean of the College of Business. Financially, the restructuring features a zero new implementation cost upfront. However, over a 5-year period, cumulative operational expenditures are projected to increase by approximately $3 million above the initial baseline. The university projects that elevated operational expenses will be fully offset by subsequent increases in student tuition and specific flight fees generated by program enrollment. Board staff recommends approval of these items.
Thank you. You have heard the recommendation. I make a motion to approve this item.
There's been a motion to approve item number 2. Is there a second? Any discussion?
Mr. President, I don't have a question. I just want to make a statement. I want to commend President Ennis and his staff at Delta State. Commercial aviation is a niche program for Delta State. It's the only commercial aviation program in the state, and I just commend you and your staff for growing that very important program.
Absolutely. Thank you, sir. So there being no further discussion, all in favor, say aye. All opposed, nay. Trustee Martin,
Aye.
motion passes. Dr. Presswood.
The third item on the agenda contains requests for new academic degree programs. Mississippi Valley State University requests the creation of the Bachelor of Science in Business Management. This 120 credit hour program currently exists as an emphasis of the Business Administration degree and is accredited by the Accreditation Council for Business Schools and Programs. Mississippi Valley State seeks to make this a standalone degree program, and no other institutions offer this degree program. The fully online BS in Business Management addresses a clear workforce need in the economically challenged Mississippi Delta region, which is recognized by workforce development authorities as a priority area for economic growth and workforce development programming. Graduates can pursue a range of business and management related careers at the local, state, and national levels. In Mississippi, management occupations, including general and operations managers and business and financial operations roles, account for a sizable portion of the workforce, with tens of thousands of jobs statewide and median annual wages well above the state average salary for all occupations. According to ZipRecruiter, salaries for this degree type in Mississippi range from $45,000 to $79,000, with top earners making around $97,000. The University of Southern Mississippi requests the creation of the Bachelor of Science in Biochemistry. This 120-hour credit program currently exists as an emphasis of the BS in Chemistry degree and is accredited by the American Society for Biochemistry and Molecular Biology. USM seeks to make this a standalone degree program for greater clarity and visibility to increase enrollments. Mississippi State and the University of Mississippi offer similar degree programs. Typical entry-level roles for baccalaureate degrees are laboratory technician, research assistant, quality control analyst, and medical lab technician, which may require additional certification. Most positions are applied or clinical rather than research intensive. The strongest demand is in healthcare systems and state public health agencies. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, baccalaureate level clinical laboratory technologists earn a median pay of $61,000 in 2024. The University of Southern Mississippi requests the creation of the Bachelor of Science in Physical Education K-12 Teaching. This 120 credit hour program currently exists as an emphasis of the BS in Kinesiology degree and is designed to prepare students to become licensed by the Mississippi Department of Education to teach physical education in K-12 schools. The current emphasis area is considered a licensure program within USM's Professional Education Unit, which is accredited by the Council for the Accreditation of Educator Preparation and is nationally recognized by the Society of Health and Physical Educators. USM seeks to make this a standalone degree program for greater clarity and visibility. Delta State, Jackson State, and the University of Mississippi offer similar educator prep programs. Primary employers are public school districts, private and faith-based schools, and community recreation programs. As of May 2026, the average annual salary for a physical education teacher in Mississippi is approximately $51,000. The University of Southern Mississippi requests the creation of the Master of Science in Educational Data Analytics. The current Master of Science in Education functions primarily as an en route program for doctoral students, consisting of the first 36 credit hours of the Research Evaluation, Statistics, and Assessment PhD. Serves no distinct student population. Although more than 90% of recent PhD students elect to earn this optional credential, the current MS degree program does not generate new enrollments and does not address professional goals that differ from the doctoral preparation. Removing the Education MS from the inventory, which is item 2E on the consent agenda, and establishing the Educational Data Analytics Master's degree as a standalone 30 credit hour program creates a clearly differentiated identity that can attract working professionals in P-12 education, higher education, evaluation, and institutional research. No other institutions offer this degree program. National workforce data from the Bureau of Labor Statistics indicate a strong growth in data-intensive and analytic roles, including management analysis and related decision support positions in education-related fields. This demand is reflected both nationally and regionally as schools, districts, colleges, and state agencies increasingly rely on data to support accountability, planning, and improvement efforts. The 2024 median annual wage for data scientists was $112,000. The University of Southern Mississippi requests the creation of the Master of Science in Strategic Communication in Emerging Media. This 30-hour online graduate program is designed to provide students with both a strong theoretical foundation and advanced professional skills in strategic communication, with a particular emphasis on emerging media. The University of Mississippi offers a similar degree program, and the anticipated incremental 5-year cost of implementation is $226,000 with a potential 5-year revenue of $1.9 million. While the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics does not specifically track social or digital media jobs, it reports that the broader media and communication sector is projected to add over 100,000 jobs annually. The Mississippi Department of Labor has not yet created separate categories for tracking digital media roles like social media and content creation. However, the South Central Workforce Development Report projects a 4.6 increase in media-related occupations, including traditional public relations specialists with 565 annual job openings. The reported median annual wage of $66,000 for media and communication positions is reported by the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Board staff recommends approval of these items.
You've heard the recommendation. I make a motion to approve these items.
There's been a motion to approve item number 3. Is there a second? Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. All opposed, nay. Trustee Martin.
Aye.
Thank you, sir. The motion passes.
This concludes academic affairs regular agenda.
Thank you, Trustee Hubbard and Dr. Presswood. We'll move on to finance and budget. Trustee Stevenson, please present the finance and budget regular agenda for us.
Thank you, Mr. President. We have 11 items on the regular agenda today. I call on Dr. Pierce to discuss the specifics of these items.
Thank you. Item number 1 is a request from Mississippi State University to increase the capital improvement fee from $50 per term to $100 per term for terms beginning after August 1, 2026. MSU was originally given authority to charge a capital improvement fee in November 2012. The capital improvement fee is authorized to fund capital construction, renovation, and replacement and acquisition costs for equipment necessary for maintenance on the campus and other capital improvement projects. Because this fee will be charged to all students as a condition of enrollment, it meets the definition of tuition pursuant to the definition provided in Board Policy 702.03. Board staff recommends approval for this item.
You have heard the recommendation from board staff. I make a motion to approve item number 1.
There's been a motion to approve item number 1. Is there a second? Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Trustee Martin.
Aye.
Motion passes. Dr. Pierce, please proceed.
Thank you. Item number 2 is request to approve the FY 2027 annual operating budget. So you have at your desk, you should have at your desk today, this blue book was at your desk yesterday afternoon. This will be the document that you are asked to approve. I'll present a summary, which is provided in this PowerPoint that's also at your desk. So today, the institutions are requesting your approval for a $6.7 billion annual operating budget, which is a 14% increase over fiscal year 2026. What you see here in this slide is the amount of the budget that is comprised of state source funds and that which is comprised by self-generated funds, which can include tuition, patient revenue, research dollars that are obtained competitively and other sources. What generally happens with this slide is as we move down from top to bottom, more of the funds are provided by the state of Mississippi until we get to the restricted and auxiliary funds. For the year-over-year change, we're seeing an $87 million increase in the operating budget of the 8 institutions, which is a 0.6% increase. Of that amount, 16 million was provided from the state of Mississippi primarily for $2,000 faculty salary raises. And for the University of Mississippi Medical Center, the ARPA funds that were provided for the School of Nursing have been used and are decreasing. For student financial aid, you see there's a decrease there. That's a fund that's overseen by the Post-Secondary Education Board. Generally, these appropriations track the number of eligible students that are expected to be eligible for MTAG, MESG, and the other state-created financial aid packages. So this reflects that. The restricted funds are federal, primarily federal research dollars. The heirs funds here are not program funds. These would be interest funds that came from the endowment that was provided primarily from the state of Mississippi. So of this amount, the largest bucket of funding is for the University of Mississippi Medical Center, which continues to become an increasingly large part of the system's budget, followed by the education in general budget, which is the education mission of the 8 universities, and then followed by the restricted research funds provided from the federal government primarily. And these are the heirs funds that continue to provide interest from the endowment. So for the education in general budget, all the institutions are showing an increase in funding year over year. The largest increases are at Mississippi State University and the University of Mississippi. For Mississippi State University, of the $29 million increase, $23 million is coming from increase in tuition revenue. And for the University of Mississippi, $35 million of the $39 million is coming from increase in tuition revenue. All the other institutions are expecting an increase in tuition revenue, either from increase in price or enrollment. But a lot of the funding here is coming from the increase provided from the legislature in the most recent legislative session. So tuition is by far the largest source of funding for the state universities. This is something that increases almost every year. So we provide this chart for comparison for the fiscal year 2000, where the state of Mississippi had historically provided most of the funding. That's now decreasing to 27% for the recent year, and then tuition increasing to over 2/3. So we're able to track expenditures in 2 different ways. One is what we call the functional expenditures. So what are the services that the funds are paying for? When we look at instruction, this is the largest component of the spending budget for the institutions. This are funds that are going primarily into classrooms, faculty for instructional purposes. Research and public service are also missions of our institutions. The research budget typically happens in the restricted budget as opposed to the education and general budget. Academic support, student services, and other budgets are increasing due to salary increases and inflationary cost. And then scholarships, as you see in the bottom, is the second largest component of the budget. Has the largest increase. That is a continually increasing cost of higher education funding. When we look at these together, and if we were to take instruction, if we were to take academic support, student services, and scholarships, these together make 72% of the spending costs of the budget for fiscal year 2027. And highlight those because these are costs that primarily we can connect closest to student spending and student outcomes. We're also able to capture expenditures by major object budget categories. So these are the traditional income and expense categories that you're familiar with in more of a private setting. For the largest expenditure is for personnel. And so you can see here, this is reflecting the legislature's provision of the $2,000 salary increases, which the institutions are able to use to go toward increasing faculty pay. The institutions are also contributing some of the increase in tuition revenue toward this funding. Overall, we're seeing an average of about 3.1% increase in salaries for the institutions. You see the contractual budget there is the largest percent increase. This is where the scholarships reside in this presentation. And personnel are by far the largest cost of the institutions. However, this is a number that is decreasing as contractual is increasing. So a few years ago, the personnel would have been closer to 70%. For the University of Mississippi Medical Center, here are the schools and the hospital along with the service area. The increase at the School of Dentistry is primarily driven by the cost of commodities. For the School of Health-related professions, that is for funding that comes from outside agencies that are purchasing services there at the School of Health-related professions. For the School of Medicine, the increase here is primarily for an increase toward academic support for the School of Medicine. For the School of Population Health, the 19% increase is primarily due to research funding that they've received. For the School of Nursing, this is decreasing as the School of Nursing construction and equipment purchases are decreasing. So these are some one-time expenditures that had passed through. The service area is decreasing because the transport and call center used to reside in this, and it is now being switched to the University Hospital to reflect the clinical nature of those expenditures. And then finally, the ARPA funds continue to decrease as they're being used. So the University Hospital is by far the largest component of this budget. And if you recall from the education and general budget for the 8 institutions, that was 1.7 million. So the hospital alone is larger than the 8 institutions. The decrease in appropriations for the medical center is that ARPA funding that was decreased. They did receive an increase in state appropriations aside from the ARPA funding. The change in sales and services is a reclass of pharmacy purchases that are moved into the other category. And I should also say here the other category, sales and services is where the patient revenue resides. So this increase, after you account for the shift from the pharmacy services, reflects some of the new Colony Park and other patient revenue that the University of Mississippi Medical Center is bringing online. And again, the personnel increase, this reflects the increase in Colony Park and other budgets that will be fully operational this year. For the agricultural units, these are programs that are primarily supported by the state of Mississippi. So you can see on the far right, the percent of the budget that comes from the state. The major exception there being the College of Veterinary Medicine, which also receives tuition. These changes are driven primarily by the increase for the funding for salary increases. The decrease at the Forest and Wildlife Research Center was due to a one-time deer pen funding project that has since been concluded. The subsidiary units are all created by line item and appropriation bills. You can see here that these are primarily 100% state appropriation funded. The exceptions will be the Research Institute of Pharmaceutical Science, which receives a lot of federal research funds for their budget. The decrease in the Law Research Institute had to do with a grant that for research that was one time. The board office resides in this budget, so we are third from the bottom here. The executive office above student financial aid. You see that that's only 40% state funded. That's because the system's workers' comp and tort pool lives in that budget. So a lot of that is the float from that, and the increase here, although we did receive an increase from appropriations, that's the growth in those pools that's reflected. For the auxiliary units, these are the self-supporting units of the university, with the exception of athletics in some cases. So this is going to be your housing, your food service, and your athletics budgets. For Mississippi State University and the University of Mississippi, increases, these are primarily due to increase in television revenue year over year. From the University of Southern Mississippi, there's some changes in guarantees for athletics programs, but the rest of these are primarily driven by housing and food service changes. Board staff recommends approval of the FY 2027 annual operating budget.
Thank you, Dr. Pierce. You've heard the recommendation from board staff. I make a motion to approve item number 2.
There's been a motion to approve item number 2. Is there a second? Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed,
Aye.
nay. Trustee Martin,
Aye.
motion passes. Dr. Pierce?
Thank you. Item number 3 is approval of the FY 2028 funding priorities budget request to the legislature. So you have at your desk this sheet that has the yellow, green, blue stripe. This would be the document that you are voting on, and I'll have a summary of that document in the presentation. So we have talked about the differences in funding between from the legislature of our state versus other state, and how we are behind. We're also behind in tuition and fee rates. So this is from 2025 compared to our contiguous states. We're the lowest of our neighboring states. We're relatively close to Arkansas, but we look at states like Tennessee, Alabama, which are significantly higher. When we look at our institutions that are in the same SREB classification, all of our institutions, with the exception of Mississippi State University, are in the bottom half of tuition charged. And what's interesting is if you look past Mississippi State to the right, you'll see institutions like Middle Tennessee State, the University of West Alabama, the University of North Alabama, all institutions with less comprehensive missions than Mississippi State University. So it's been a priority of the board to keep education affordable in the state of Mississippi, and I think that's reflected in the tuition that's charged. But there is an outcome for this, and that is in the faculty compensation at our institutions. So taking the same comparison of faculty salaries, so this is for the 4-year one institutions for the Southeast region, and this accounts for 80% of faculty and students in our system. We are below the next peer by about 7%. And when we looked at this chart last year, rather than 77%, it was 79%. So even though we've been able to make some improvements in faculty compensation, other states are improving at a faster rate. And this is reflected in the absolute dollar amounts above the Mississippi average. So what this chart is saying is that for the Southeast region, the average faculty member at a 4-year one institutions paid $26,000 more than the average in our state. The next closest state to us is Arkansas, and there's still about a $7,800 premium. So what we are recommending to the board this morning is that the board adopt the performance funding framework in adopting this appropriations request to the legislature. And what this will do is take from the NCHEMS presentation that you heard this morning and that we discussed in the Finance Committee meeting yesterday afternoon, adopting the foundational funding portion with the goal of attaining floor funding for all institutions. So Alcorn State University, Mississippi State University, and the University of Mississippi would be the institutions below the floor funding. So we want to address that gap. Performance funding, so establishing an excellence component or looking into it, improvement funding, and then having measures that address administrative and financial efficiency. And as a part of this, you would task the staff here at the board office and institutional staff to bring you recommendations after looking through NCHEM's report and considering that, for performance funding categories that would comprise the performance funding pool, and that you would receive feedback from institutional staff at your next meeting in August 2026. And then this would be an item for discussion at the board retreat. So the recommendation for funding priorities for fiscal, this should be 28, to the legislative session that would be in January 2027. At the top line there, this is the performance framework funding. The gap between the funding now and to get to the lean level, which is beyond the floor level that NCHEMS has shared with us, is about $156 million. So this $93 million is a 20% increase, and it's put there as an attempt to acknowledge that the gap is larger than just the floor level of funding. For the University of Mississippi Medical Center, they're requesting their funding increase to be provided for all capital purposes. For the subsidiaries and agricultural programs, there's a request to increase the salaries to get closer to the peer averages that we just looked at. And then also because particularly the agricultural budgets don't have access to the tuition funding that the institutions do. Even when we address salary funding, there's still inflation that occurs that needs to be addressed. So this is an 8% increase in inflation in the non-salary portion of those budgets that's reflected here. So the total request will be $129 million for fiscal year 2028. Increase over 27. So board staff recommends approval of the FY 2028 budget request to the legislature and adoption of the performance funding framework.
You have heard the recommendation from board staff. I make a motion to approve the FY 28 funding priorities and the performance funding framework.
There's been a motion by trustee Stevenson. Is there a second? Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Trustee Martin,
Aye.
the motion passes. Before we proceed, let the record reflect that trustees Martin and Ogletree are recusing themselves from item number 4, and trustee Ogletree is also recusing himself from items 5 through 10 on the finance and budget regular agenda. Trustee Martin, you'll be placed in the Zoom waiting room. Trustee Ogletree is leaving the room, and someone will let you both know when to return. Dr. Pierce, you can proceed.
Thank you. Item number 4 is a request from the board office to renew the system's automobile liability insurance coverage policy with Berkeley Southeast Insurance Company and Genesis, a Berkshire Hathaway company. The system currently owns 2,069 vehicles covered by the universities and board office through primary coverage with Berkeley Southeast Insurance Company and excess coverage for out-of-state incidents through Genesis. The policies provide up to $500,000 coverage in Mississippi and up to $5 million outside of Mississippi. The 1-year renewal will cost approximately $1.1 million and was obtained through a request for proposals. There were 2 respondents. Berkeley and Genesis was the most competitive. This agreement may be terminated at any time with written notice. Legal staff has reviewed this agreement for compliance with applicable law and finds it to be acceptable. Board staff recommends this item for the board's approval.
You have heard the recommendation from board staff. I make a motion to approve item number 4.
There's been a motion to approve item number 4. Is there a second? Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. The motion passes. Bridget, if you would allow trustee Martin back into the meeting. Okay, Dr. Pierce, please proceed.
Unless there's an objection, I suggest that we take up items 5 through 10 as a group. Any objection?
No objections.
Hearing none, John, please proceed.
Thank you. Item number 5 is a request for Mississippi State University to enter into a 10-year lease with G.Ed.R. H.S. Bell Tower 1 LLC for approximately 3,100 square feet in the College View development to provide for student life activities. This space will be built out and used for student organization meetings, leadership training, and student life programming. The university will make about a $900,000 contribution in improvements, which will be considered rent for the 10-year program, making the average cost per square foot at $29 annually. The university will be responsible for operating expenses, taxes, and utilities. The agreement can be terminated for breach. Item number 6 is a request for Mississippi Valley State University to amend and extend its food services agreement with Thompson Hospitality Services. The amendment provides for $534,000 in capital investment to the Aaron Student Union, including 2 new food service components, and extends the agreement through June 2036. The amendment is expected to generate approximately $1.4 million in new revenue. The agreement can be terminated with 90 days' notice. If the agreement is terminated early, the university will owe the unamortized portion of the capital investment made by Thompson Hospitality. Item number 7 is a request from the University of Mississippi to amend and extend its food service agreement with Aramark Educational Services. The agreement grants Aramark exclusive food service rights on campus and extends the relationship through June 30, 2041. The contract has an estimated minimum value of $64 million and is intended to support expanded campus dining operations associated with future residence halls and the public-private partnerships that they've developed. The university utilized a comprehensive dining study program conducted by Brailsford and Dunleavy in evaluating this amendment. This agreement can be terminated with 270 days' notice. Item 8 is a request from the University of Mississippi to add services to its existing agreement with Workday, approved by the board in May 2024. This amendment adds contract lifecycle management, Pecan, employee voice, and enhanced Workday success plan services. These services manage contract lifecycle, employee workflows, and technical guidance support. The term of this contract is through May 2029, and the additional services will cost approximately $2.6 million. Workday is a current vendor of the university. Item 9 is a request from the University of Mississippi Medical Center to amend a products agreement with Smith & Nephew Incorporated. The amendment extends this agreement by 2 years through January 2029, adds UMMC Colony Park North as an approved facility, and updates the product pricing and inventory list. The agreement provides for the purchase of implants and supplies related to shoulder replacement surgical procedures. The term of the agreement will be extended by 2 years. The cost of the agreement, however, will remain at $5.4 million. This agreement can be terminated with 30 days' notice. Item 10 is a request from Jackson State University to enter into an agreement with Brunswick Bowling Products to renovate and restore the university's on-campus bowling facility. The contract includes the purchases and installation of scoring system, pin setters, furniture, software, and related equipment at a total cost of $387,000. This agreement will commence upon notice to proceed and conclude following delivery and installation. Brunswick was selected through a competitive RFP process and was the sole respondent. Legal staff has reviewed these agreements for compliance with applicable law and finds them to be acceptable, and board staff recommends approval of items 5 through 10.
You have heard the recommendation from board staff. I make a motion to approve items 5 through 10.
There's been a motion to approve items 5 through 10. Is there a second? Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Trustee Martin,
Aye.
the motion passes. Bridget, if you will have Trustee Ogletree to return to the room. Okay. While we're waiting for Trustee Ogletree to return, let the record reflect that Trustee Cummings is recusing herself from item number 11. Okay, Dr. Pierce, please proceed.
Thank you. Item number 11 is a request from the University of Mississippi Medical Center to accept ownership of the Greenwood LaFleur Hospital situated on approximately 14.5 acres of associated property in LaFleur County. The property, which includes the hospital campus and related facilities, is being donated by the city of Greenwood, LaFleur County, and Greenwood LaFleur Hospital, acting by and through its board of trustees. UMMC intends to utilize the facility to expand healthcare services and create additional training opportunities for students, residents, and fellows in a community hospital setting. Property has an appraised value to exceed $1 million and would be transferred to UMMC without cost. Environmental Phase 1 and Phase 2 reports have been completed. Phase 2 is required due to the presence of an underground storage tank. However, Phase 2 did not recommend any additional assessment activities as a result of no evidence of significant petroleum release. A portion of the property containing the Flex building is located on 16th Section property, in which the city and county have a leasehold interest. The lease on this portion of the property will expire in 2046. Legal staff has reviewed this agreement for compliance with the applicable law and finds it to be acceptable, and board staff recommends this item for approval.
You have heard the recommendation from board staff. I make a motion to approve item number 11.
There's been a motion to approve item number 11. Is there a second? Any discussion?
I'd like to say one thing, that when y'all come in here and hear us say yes, it doesn't mean we haven't talked about this. This has been an area that we looked at very carefully. The chancellor and his team have done a great job of presenting very detailed information to us, including a very thorough analysis of risk and opportunities. And there has been significant discussion in committee meetings, and I know a number of us, Charlie, you, me, and others, have called and spoken to people directly, and we've gotten the information we need to be able to vote on this now. So, Chancellor, I appreciate your help and your team's help. Thank you.
There's no further discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Trustee Martin,
Aye.
the motion passes. Bridget, if you will, have Trustee Cummings return.
Mr. President, that concludes the finance and budget agenda.
Okay.
Yeah, this concludes the finance and budget agenda.
Thank you, Trustee Stevenson and Dr. Pierce. Next item would be our real estate agenda. If Trustee Rader would please present that for us.
Thank you, Mr. President. There are 4 items on the real estate regular agenda today. Mr. Brad Rowland will present these items for the board's consideration.
Thank you, Trustee Rader. Item number 1 is a request from the University of Mississippi Medical Center requesting to increase the budget for the Cancer Center and Research Institute project from $5 million to $250 million, for an increase in the amount of $245 million. In addition, UMMC requests approval to clarify the funding sources in the project to include Senate Bill 3051 Laws of 26. This is the $100 million provided this past legislative session by the legislature. UMC also requests approval to appoint Canon Design Group as the design professional for the project. The project will provide an interdisciplinary educational facility with world-class comprehensive cancer center and research institute. The building will have multiple floors with approximately 200,000 building gross square feet, as well as an adjacent parking garage. Board staff recommends approval of item number 1.
You have heard the recommendations. I make a motion to approve item number 1.
There has been a motion to approve item number 1. Is there a second? Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. All opposed, nay. Trustee Martin,
Aye.
motion passes. Let the record reflect, please, that Trustee Ogletree is recusing himself from items 2 through 4 on the real estate regular agenda. Trustee Ogletree knows the routine, and we'll have somebody let him back in a minute. If you would proceed, Mr. Rowland.
Thank you, President Cunningham. Item number 2 is a request from the University of Mississippi to increase the budget on the Gillum Sports Center improvements project from $5 million to $6 million, for an increase in the amount of $1 million. In addition, University of Mississippi requests approval to clarify the funding source of the project as internal R&R funds, and to clarify the scope of the project. The University of Mississippi is increasing the project budget due to the need to expand the scope of the project. The project scope includes renovation of areas vacated by the Ole Miss softball program, renovations to the existing Ole Miss soccer and volleyball areas, office realignment, renovations for head coaches, and enhanced student athlete spaces. Board staff recommends approval of item number 2.
You have heard the recommendation. I make a motion to approve item number 2.
There's been a motion to approve item number 2. Is there a second? Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. All opposed, nay. Trustee Martin,
Aye.
the motion passes. Mr. Rowland, if you would please proceed.
Thank you. Item number 3 is a request from Mississippi State University requesting approval of exterior design for the new Kappa Alpha fraternity house that will be constructed on MSU property. This is a privately funded project to a privately owned fraternity house on land owned by MSU that is leased to the fraternity. The scope includes demolishing the existing fraternity house and constructing a new house. On the screen, you can see first rendering of the new Kappa Alpha house. This is another view of the Kappa Alpha house. Board staff has reviewed the renderings and finds them to be acceptable, and board staff recommends approval of item number 3.
You've heard the recommendation. I make a motion to approve item number 3.
There's been a motion to approve item number 3. Is there a second? Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. All opposed, nay. Trustee Martin,
Aye.
the motion passes. Mr. Rowland, please proceed.
Thank you. Item number 4 is a request from the University of Mississippi for exterior design for the P3 student housing West Row site. University of Mississippi requests an updated exterior design approval of the redesigned West Row site. Ongoing design development reduced the overall building density along West Road. You saw some of this yesterday and earlier this morning. The housing buildings have reduced from 3 structures to 2 structures. Parking is now exclusively surface lots, eliminating the previously designed parking structure from the development. Dining is now an open air food truck outdoor venue concept instead of the previously designed dining facility. Final design of the outdoor dining concept will be submitted to the board at a later time. As you can see on this, the 25 site plan had the parking garage and the dining facility in it, and now the 26 site plan has removed those. The renderings reflect this. This is the north building where the surface lot is, and then the south building. Board staff has reviewed these renderings and find them to be acceptable and recommend approval of item number 4.
You've heard the recommendation. I make a motion to approve item number 4.
There's been a motion to approve item number 4. Is there a second? Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Trustee Martin,
Aye.
the motion passes. We could have Trustee Ogletree return.
President Cunningham, this concludes the real estate regular agenda.
Thank you, Trustee Raider and Mr. Rowland. We'll proceed with our legal component of the meeting. Before we proceed, let the record reflect that Trustee Clark is recusing himself from items number 2 and items number 1 and number 2 on the legal regular agenda. And Trustee Clark is gone, so we will proceed if we would. Trustee Heidelberg.
Thank you, Mr. President. The first item on the legal regular agenda is a request from the University of Southern Mississippi for approval to hire the law firm of Butler Snow as outside counsel to advise the university on taxation, commercial, intellectual property, and regulatory matters, as well as the human resource and employment matters and general legal advice. This request has been reviewed by IHL staff and the Office of the Attorney General, and board staff recommends the approval of this item. I make a motion to approve item number 1.
There's been a motion to approve item number 1. Is there a second? All right, any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Trustee Martin,
Aye.
motion passes. Please proceed, Trustee Heidelberg.
President Cunningham, item number 2 is a request from the University of Mississippi Medical Center for approval of an in-state lobbying agreement with Butler Snow. This request has been reviewed by IHL staff and the Office of the Attorney General. Board staff recommends approval of this item, and I move to approve item number 2.
There's been a motion to approve item number 2. Is there a second? Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Trustee Martin,
Aye.
motion passes. Heather, if you'd allow Trustee Clark to return, please.
Thank you, President Cunningham. This concludes the legal regular agenda.
Thank you, trustee Heidelberg. Next we have administration and policy. Dr. Rankins, if you would please present that portion of our agenda.
Item number one is a request to appoint 3 IOs to serve on the Mississippi Post-Secondary Attainment Council, or MPACT. By virtue of Senate Bill 2524, effective July 1, 2026, the Mississippi Legislature created MPACT, whose purpose is establishing a state's post-secondary attainment goal, as well as action-oriented strategies designed to make progression toward a degree more attainable. MPACT replaces the Educational Achievement Council. MPACT shall have a 26 voting member board and 6 ex officio members representing academic, private, and state sectors. The IHL board must appoint 3 IOs to serve on this council. Board approval is requested to appoint Presidents Dan Ennis, Denise Jones-Gregory, and Mark Keenum, representing Delta State, Jackson State, and Mississippi State, respectively, to serve on this council. Their term will begin July 1, 2026, and this item is presented for your approval.
Is there a motion to approve item number one?
So moved.
We have a proper second. Any discussion on the matter? All in favor, say aye. All opposed, nay. Trustee Martin,
Aye.
motion passes. If you would, please proceed, Dr. Rankins.
Item number 2 is a request to appoint President Tracy Cook of Alcorn State University to serve on the University Press of Mississippi Board of Directors. University Press is a not-for-profit corporation supported by our 8 public universities. This 19-member board includes 1 IHL board member and the commissioner or my designee. Trustee Don Clark is the trustee representative on the UPM board. President Nora Miller, who is the current commissioner's designee, is retiring on June 30th. IHL board approval is requested to appoint President Cook to serve the remainder of President Miller's term, which is July 1, 2026 through October 15, 2029. This item is presented for your consideration.
Is there a motion? Okay. Is there a second? All right, any discussion? All in favor, say aye. All opposed, nay. Trustee Martin,
Aye.
the motion passes.
President Cunningham, this concludes the administration and policy regular agenda.
Okay, we'll proceed with the information agendas, Dr. Rankins.
Are there any questions regarding items on the information agenda? If not, thank you, President Cunningham.
Okay, well, thank you. Are there any additional agenda items to be considered? And is there any other business to discuss?
But before we adjourn, excuse me, I'd like to thank President Miller for her service on behalf of the W and IHL, and we appreciate your work for many years in many different capacities.
Absolutely. Well, G stole my thunder, Laura, so. But there's worse problems to have than people that want to wish you well in your retirement. So thank you.
Mine
Go
too.
ahead.
And then the other thing is, as we say goodbye to Dr. Miller, I would like to say to Trustee Martin, we're so glad that last month wasn't your last meeting. So we're glad to hear your voice, even though you're not here in person today.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Thank you so much.
I do want to take a moment to share with the board that the ADA Accessibility Task Force, which was established in August of 2023, has completed its work, and you'll find the final report at your seat. As you all recall, the work of this task force was driven by our friend and trustee Jeannie Lucky, who was a passionate advocate for students and other individuals with disabilities, especially at Mississippi's public universities. We're fortunate to have dedicated professionals at our universities who champion this work and carry on Trustee Lucky's energy and dedication. So we're grateful for everybody that's going to keep that in motion for us. We do not plan to meet in July. The next regularly scheduled meeting will be on August 2026. So is there a motion to close this meeting to determine the need for an executive session? Thank you. All right. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. All opposed, nay. Trustee Martin.
Aye.
Thank you, sir. Motion passes. Other than IHL trustees and the staff, anyone not needed for executive session should leave the room or disconnect. Visitors are welcome to wait in the hallway. Yeah, give us a minute to get set up.